Welcome, and thank you so much for joining today's SIBR User Interface Update webinar. Please note that if you would like to ask a question, you can press #2 on your telephone keypad at any time to enter the question queue. You will hear a notification when your line has been unmuted when we pause for questions. If at any time you have a technical related question regarding the software, please select the host from the drop-down menu and send a note regarding what is happening. If you would like to, you could also call our help desk at 888-796-6118. And with that, I'll turn the call over to Heidi Carter, Senior Client Trainer. Please go ahead, Heidi.
Thank you very much, Mary Kate, and thank you all for joining us. Welcome to the SIBR UI Update webinar. So we hope to show you some things about the changes to get you prepared for MarketSim and then for future changes that you're going to see when it goes into production. I have a room full of people in here with me, so I'd like to take a moment just to let them introduce themselves.
Greg Williams.
Cynthia Hinman. Rada Madrigal.
Wendell Tamblin. John Williams.
Okay. And I thank all of you for being here today. So I'll be presenting this, but we also luckily have some subject matter experts here in the room to be able to answer those questions for you, namely Wendell. So I'm one of the trainers here in the Training and Readiness group, and so the objective of today's session, we're going to be identifying some of the screen changes so that you're ready for that. How to access, what the kind of access you have, how to right-click. That's going to be one of the new 6 features, and also identifying the bid creation, viewing, and copying of the bids. So there's not a lot of functional changes as far as the process for bidding, but just the UI, the looks and feel of it. We want to make sure that you're comfortable with that. So those of you who have been following the RUG meetings or the MTPF meeting, you know that we've had an initiative. It's part of the Spring 2018 release. It's the SIBR UI upgrade. And so you can see there we're upgrading the underlying SDK platform that's used for displaying SIBR, the UI. And this is meant to strengthen security of SIBR application and improve the compatibility with the latest version of Internet Explorer, and that's IE11. So you've probably seen this, we've already published a draft user guide, which is online. Today we're conducting the training. MarketSim is scheduled for it to start on the 27th, and then production activation is scheduled currently for March 1st. So as of this time, those are the continued dates that you'll see on the slide. May 1st. Oh, May 1st. I was trying to speed it up, sorry. All right, so we said that the SIBR Users Guide, that we have that. This is currently found on the ISO website under the Stay Informed tab, Release Planning, under the Spring 2018 release, and you'll see that under the SIBR User Documentation. So this is an excellent guide that's going to walk you through. A lot of this information has been taken from that user guide. So this is a very handy tool that Wendell has been working on to update. And we'll talk about it a little bit later, but if you have any suggestions, see anything in there, please be sure to let us know how we can improve that to make sure that it works for you. But this is a really good guide to give you information on what the different changes are going to look like and how you can use that all along the way. So we mentioned earlier that SIBR, with the latest features, is developed for use with IE11 for support and for testing. So the SIBR UI will display in Chrome, but it's not supported when reporting any issues using the UI with any browser other than IE11. So, and notice here you want to make sure that no compatibility settings should be on. So if you're using that, make sure that you go into your settings and make sure that those boxes for display internet size and compatibility view and use Microsoft compatibility lists are unchecked. So you want those, so just like they are there, make sure that those are not checked. It's very important to ensure that these boxes are unchecked to ensure that the UI functions properly. So getting into what you're going to be seeing when you start entering the UI with the changes. This menu allows for different screens to be accessed by selecting a specific tab depending on the needs to view data for a given market type, data, coordinator, information. So once selected, the information will populate in the fields below the application-specific menu. So in these tabs, you have the bids, and this screen is used to submit or remove bids for respective market, either the day-ahead or real-time. It's also used to view the status of bids that have been submitted or are available for submission. You have the Trades tab, in which an SC can create and manage all types of inter-SC trades for both day-ahead and real-time markets. We have Convergence Bids tab, and that's where screens that are accessible through this menu are used to create, submit, and manage convergence bids, also known as virtual bids, for the day-ahead market. Energy Forecast tab is used to submit energy forecasts for variable energy resources, or VER, and load-serving generators. The IND viewer is where an SC can check imbalances on selected resources that are either in day-ahead or real-time markets for balancing for their ETCs, TORs, or for the priority. So that's where you would see that. And with the OTC viewer, an SC can view by interchange for any given date the import and export limits received in SIBR, and if there are any isolated tie conditions. And this condition is when a zero limit exists. So here you see that SIBR application navigation icons that will assist you in viewing the data. So many of these are the same as what you've seen in previous versions, and you can view their functions on page 28 of the user guide. However, there are a couple of new icons to be aware of. One is the favorites, so that's a new addition to this SIBR UI, and those can be created based on either the certificate user. And these are associated, again, with that number, but also can be shared. You also have the portfolios icon. Now, this used to be a tab, just like the bids, trades, et cetera, but that's now an icon where you can access the portfolio information. So there used to be a day-ahead and a real-time tab as well, but now these have been created to be a drop-down so that you can select the market type that you want to use. You can also click on the calendar icon to select the date that you want to be looking at. And you also can select the coordinator. Now here you see an SC that has a lot of options, but for most SCs, you're going to only see the ones that are associated with the certificate that you're logged in under, and so you wouldn't have that drop down if you only have the one SC ID. So this is your extreme example here. So a scheduling coordinator will be concerned mostly with what is the portion of the application that's labeled as the application content area. So for most bid management displays, there are three basic components in the application content area, and that's the filter pane, the data grid, and message bar. So the filter pane is present on most of the SIBR displays. It contains filters that allow the user to control the information displayed on the data grid portion of the display. So this filter pane is always at the upper edge of the application content area, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this feature in detail in a few moments. We also have the data grid, which is below the filter pane, and that's at least one data grid. Bid data are entered, edited, and viewed in this data grid. So a number of icons may be included on this, and so for more information about their functionality, you can refer to page 37 and 38 of the SIBR user guide. And we're going to talk more about the data grid here in a moment. We also have the message bar, which is what you have today, and it's at the very bottom of the application content area. Again, it's used to advise the user of various events, errors, et cetera, and the size of that's going to change based on the messages that need to be shown. So talking a little bit more about those, going back to the inline filters. So you used to have a button that it would say that you want to create bid, but now that's an icon that's up at the top, so you want to click on that icon in order to create your bid. This entire filter, in filter pane, it contains filters that allow the user to control the information displayed on the data grid portion of the display. And though you're still going to be able to sort your data the way you currently are able to do, there's now this online filtering option for better granularity, since the user can narrow the viewable data by applying filters in one or more of the columns. So once data is entered in a column, the filter will be automatically applied by moving the mouse out of the filter. Once you apply the selected filters, including a free-form filter for the resource column, you're able to do a lot more sorting. So this is a definite enhancement to this SIBR update, is that you're going to have a lot more flexibility and granularity in your sorting. So the inline filter selection can be selected, again, from the drop-down to show available criteria. It can also support multi-select options, which we're going to talk about here in a moment. Now these filters, when you create those, those are going to be cached, and those are going to be based on your login. So if a filter is applied and the user logs out, the next time the user logs in, the filter will still be applied. But if you go, and you can clear those out, or else if you go to the date and filter on that, the login will default to the current date. So again, this new inline filter allows for the better granularity, and you'll be able to click on that button. You can see it. Actually, the arrow needs to be a little over. You can also, once you've clicked on that, you can click on the orange filter icon to turn off the applied inline filter. So when you've clicked on that first blue filter, and you get the information down below, you can click on the orange filter icon to clear that. So as I mentioned a moment ago, there's at least always one data grid per filter pane, and this is one of the most significant changes. While the information is the same, the look is going to be different due to the filtering capabilities, and and it's possible that a page, again, may have more than one, and it's possible that the content area may contain a lot more of the charts, the data, and the various elements like buttons and checkboxes, et cetera. But again, that's what's going to display below is largely due to the Adjust Column tool, which allows users to better manage the data grid. And you're going to be able to find more information in the user guide, but this feature of more of the inline filtering will help reduce the footprint by putting more information that is pertinent to the user in one display, reducing the number of clicks to view information on multiple pages. So much of the information you'll see will be no different than before, but the enhanced layout will prove to be a time saver for the different users. So again, and that was the Adjust Columns that allows the user to select those data columns. So you can pull up that information and click on the ones that you want to see, or the columns that you want to have added onto your screen below. So a couple of inline drop-down option examples. So if you were to click on the down arrow in the View Filter criteria, you're going to be able to pull down more of that information. You can then apply the criteria. That's what's going to display, so you can make your selections of the status, for instance. You can also select a status to refresh, so it could be modified, valid, conditionally modified. So you can select the different options. And Wendell, I believe they can select more than one option with this. Is that correct?
Yeah, so notice on the very first column there's a little box with 3 dots in it. And if you were to select on that, actually it brings up another box that would allow you to select the status, and then you can use the control button or the shift to select more than one status, and then it would be those statuses that you would be able to see. So, for example, just using the drop-down, it's only going to let you select either all or one of the selections. If you use the gray box with the 3 dots on it, that other window will pop up. Yeah, here we go. And then it'll allow you to select multiple and then hit OK, and now you would see those statuses. So if you're looking for market accepted bids, those are modified or valid or conditionally modified, conditionally valid, master file inserted, so you could use that as a criteria. If you're interested in the bids that didn't make it to the market or were not accepted prior to market close, things like that, you can select the invalid or the rejected. The created will show up, and obviously those have not been submitted. You can look at those or select just created if you want to edit a bid, that type of thing. So it does give you some flexibility on the sorting that we did not previously have in SIBR. So.
Thank you very much, Wendell. And before we go a little bit further, let's take a moment to see if there are any questions on this inline filtering or what you've seen to this point. We're going to continue to go through the slides and show you what the changes are. But does anybody have any questions right at this time? Mary Kate?
And ladies and gentlemen, as a quick reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, simply press #2 on your telephone keypad. Again, that's #2 on your telephone keypad. You will receive a notification once your line has been unmuted. And Heidi, at this time, we do not have any questions.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And we're going to stop for more opportunities throughout the presentation if you have any questions. So again, that's the multi-select that Wendell was talking about for those features. And then we're talking a little bit more about the data grid management features, that screen which we talked about a little bit earlier. Like we said, that's one of the biggest sections that is on the screen here. And one of the biggest changes that you're going to see, well, first of all, there are some functionality icons, and you can see what all those icons will do if you refer to page 37 and 38 of the user guide. That will tell you what each one of these icons are going to be able to do for you. This is one of the changes that you're going to see. So you're going to be able to select these sub-tabs to display associated information. So just some of the examples that are on here, you've got the energy details displays screen, which includes the selected hour, price curves, distribution, information about residual unit commitments. So you're going to be able to find energy information under that tab. So if you click on that, you're going to see the grids, the different data information that's associated with that screen. You also have the daily details displays, and that includes startup information, minimum load information, and minimum and maximum energy limit information, just to name some of the information that you're going to find on there. You also have an hourly details displays. That includes open tie indicators, generation capacity limits, dispatch options, registered resources, etc. Under the self-schedule standard details displays, this is going to include information on self-schedule quantity, block bid hours for day ahead, pumping self-schedule, etc. Under the self-schedule ETC details displays, you're going to see existing transmission contracts, or ETCs, transmission ownership rights, TORs, and regulatory must-take information. Now, those are just some of the tabs that you see. There are quite a few more. You know, if you look into the user guide, there's information about what all of those tabs are and what information you're going to see on the ones that are applicable. So just a couple of examples. So earlier, just on the last slide, we showed the daily details displays. So this is an example of what you would see if you clicked on your daily details. Again, this is where you would see some of your startup information, minimum load costs, minimum and maximum energy limits, the charge limits. You see over on the right-hand side, startup time curves. So if there was information in there, you'd be able to see those graphs or the charts that would be associated with the resource that is selected. And just a note here that the ramp rates are not going to be shown in here, but that is an enhancement request. So if the, Wendell, if you want to address that.
Real quick, this Web SDK design was built on coinciding with the CCE3 initiative, which in that initiative, as part of the project, the ramp rates were going to be removed from a bidding perspective. So right now, if we deploy with CCE3, then the ramping would be coming out of the bid, and then we would be using other data from master file. So right now, we are probably going to request an enhancement to bring in the ramp, which allows us the flexibility that, if this goes in, we can put it in prior to CCE3, or if CCE3 gets delayed for any reason, then we just have that flexibility. But we want you to know that when you're looking at this in Market Sim, you won't be able to see your ramp rates with this user interface. Now, the bids can still be submitted. If you're submitting via API, then those ramp rates will come in. If you do the retrieves, you'll still see the ramp rates, things like that. But it is a UI limitation at this point, and we just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that when you're looking at the user. So that's all I have on that.
Great. Thank you very much. So that's one example, and thank you for that note about the flexible ramp. This is just one other example. This is for that energy tab. So if you clicked on that, this is the type of information that you're going to see. You're going to be able to see the hour ending. You're going to see the price curve, distribution pairs, shutdown costs for pumping. You're going to see RUC information. Over here on the right, you're going to be able to see those price curves that you're looking at, and also distribution pairs. So this is some of the information that you're going to be able to see if you click on that energy details display. So rather than having to click to different areas, you're going to be able to click on the energy for that resource and be able to see this information. There's also some input accelerators. There's a couple of new methods. So once information is popped up in this data screen, there are two distinct methods of input acceleration on data tables for bids in a created state for editing. So both of these methods allow you to quickly and easily replicate and duplicate data on a table, and it's very similar to using a spreadsheet. So this is accomplished either by using the right-click menu when you are in the data grid, or you can use the Control and Shift keys in selecting data, as well as using the Control plus V for copy and Control plus V for paste. So this right-click menu, which is a new feature for SIBR, gives you a list of commands that are associated with actions to perform on the entered data. So again, it's similar to how you'd use a right-click in MS Excel. So each of the functions, you can copy the contents, you can set up values in the columns to this value, you can paste with operation. So there are different pieces of information that you can do. So the right-click is definitely enhancement. Is there anything you want to add about that, Wendell, or is that?
No, it's, I mean, it just takes a little bit getting used to. It's not the same as what we have with the shift and the arrow down, so you do have to get used to the right-click and copy functions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, before we go on, I want to open this up to see if anybody has any questions at this time. So, Mary Kate, could you ask the audience?
Absolutely. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, simply press #2, that's #2 on your telephone keypad. And Heidi, at this time, we do not have any questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mary Kate. All right, so you might have seen on a couple of the earlier screens that we were looking at, you might have seen a couple of icons that weren't looking very familiar to you. So in the current SIBR, there's an alert icon that prompts you to look further, and this is the icon that you see. But and so it's good to let you know that there's maybe an issue. What the drawback is that you have to dig into it to find out what that issue is. With this update, there are actually going to be new status icons and definitions for these bids and trades. And this is just a high level of all of them. So all of the details for these icons are actually in the user's guide, and they're going to be spelled out to you. You can look at pages 40 and 41 of the user guide for the definitions of those. But here you can see an example of submitted data matches master file. So if you've got that green circle with the white check, you're doing well. But you also know it's like, oh, okay, if I see the red button with the white X, it means my bid has been, or trade has been rejected, so I need to look further into it. But at least it gives you a little more comprehensive look at why you might have some kind of an issue. So this is, it's going to take maybe a little bit of time getting used to what each one of these means, but it would definitely be an enhancement and future time saver for you to have an idea of, okay, this is how I would go about researching or fixing this issue. And you are still going to see that yellow triangle, but that is invalid bids or trades. So again, look at those definitions in the user guide, and that way you'll have an idea of what these all stand for. So creating bids is going to look different in SIBR. I know a lot of you, like we said earlier, that there are not going to be any changes to the API. So that functionality is the same. You're going to be able to go back in and view information. But if you are somebody who actually creates and submits your bids in SIBR, there is a different look and feel to it. So we're going to go through a couple of slides, and then we're going to get into the user's guide to look at the different information that will help guide you through that. So when you're going to create a bid in SIBR, the process hasn't changed, but again, what you see is going to change. So you'd have to first create a bid for market type, and that requires the header filter to be selected on the market type. So you'd want to either pick day ahead or real time, and then you would click apply. So first step is the real time, second step is to apply. Then you would select that create bid icon. So again, earlier on we said that used to be a button that would say create bid, but now that's that icon. You'd select that. Next step would be to input your date type, product type, hours, the coordinator information, and resource. So you would input that information or select from the drop-downs. Then you would select the product type, default set to energy and self-schedule standard, and select from available, then use the move arrows to select. So you'd use those arrows that are in the center to select which resources you want to use, or if it's an ancillary service, non-spin reserve, reg up, reg down, et cetera. So you can also remove that information by using that selected arrow to take anything out from the selected items. And then hours, you'd select those hours there, and those can be selected for all, or you can select a subset. Then you would select from available and then use the move arrows to the selected. And when product and hours are all done, then you would just click OK. So once the criteria has all been set in there, you're going to be able to go and click on that create button. So once you've created that, you can display that data. You can look at the status, the hour, resource type applied on the inline. And so note here that the hour ending 20 is on the selected row, and the energy details down here would show the hour ending 20. So that information would show up below based on what you're selecting. Now you can also select more than one row. So, and again, once you select that information, there at the top, the energy details would now show one of three. And then you can select those arrow forward, the blue ones, to move to the next record. So it would show each one of those that you selected, hour 20, hour 21, hour 22. You could progress by using those buttons to get to those hours to see the information in those graphs and charts next to it. So let's go ahead and look at the guide. Okay, so all that information that we just covered, that is in the user's guide. And then, so again, we can view that. Then once the bid is in created status, the details may be entered on the bid for product selected when creating the bid. So this information is all here listed out in the guide. And Wendell, do you want, I'm just going to kind of quickly go through these, but if you want to add anything on these as we're going through the pages, just to show them. So you can make edits here, so you can see there if the price curve, there's a pane that you can click the edit icon, which is here in red, so it shows you where that's at. And then you can click new row for each segment to be entered. And again, just like usual, there has to be two. You need to enter a quantity and price, and then you're going to update that. And then again, after the update, that top row for energy, again, we see where it's, we check it for hour ending 20, which was part of the example before, and then the price curve ID for the resource would show up here, and rows are out of edit. So is there anything you want to add to this to clarify, or is that?
No, I mean, this hasn't changed that much. It's just how you enter the data. You do have to create the rows, whereas before, a set of rows were already provided and you just had to enter the data. Here you're going to create however many segments you want. You can click new row without entering data. So you can, if you know you're going to have 4 segments, you can click new row, new row, new row, new row. Then you get your 4 lines. They're in the edited mode, which is the highlighted color there. And then you could just enter your data. So if it's only one curve with 2 segments, that's all you have to enter. If you've got 10, you're going to enter 10, right?
Okay, let's go to the next page here. You can also add products to a created bid. So if you want an additional component to be added to your created bid, this can be done by right-clicking. So again, we talked about it a little bit earlier, that right-click is a new feature that you can use. Click on that, right-click on the column for the product to add the bid in the bid summary for the selected bid. So these illustrations will show you how to go about that, selecting the row, right-clicking. So this is, again, on page 65 of your user guide. So this will take you through the steps of selecting the row, right-clicking the product, adding and refreshing the product, and then updating the information. And then you see where now the bid would contain the energy and spend for this example. So again, this is just one of the examples. There are multiple things that you could be adding into there, but this is a good place to start for examples of how you go through the steps to add more information. When you're going to submit the bids, once they're created and they're ready for submission, if it's not in the created status, there's going to be an error on that submit, so that will show on the message pane in the bottom of the screen. The user can submit one or more bids, but there is also an option to submit all of the bids. So you can see here on this page, there's an icon to submit, or you can select one or more rows in the summary grid, and then right-click to bring the menu to submit. So you've got these steps here where you have the submit icon, the two blue arrows. You've got the day-ahead generator bid and created status. So you've got that edit button, and then right-click on the in line, and then menu options, then submit your bid. And again, you see here, we talked about those icons. You see where these are all the green circles with the green check. That means that those are good to go. You can submit those bids.
No, those were
already submitted. Already submitted. I'm still learning too. And you can also do the multi-row select to submit those bids. Again, using the right click to select those, as we talked about earlier. Now, do we have any questions on creating and submitting the bids? Mary Kate, could you ask the audience if we have any questions?
Absolutely. Once again, if you'd like to ask a question, please simply press #2 on your telephone. You will hear a notification when your line has been unmuted. Again, that's #2. We do have someone who just raised their hand. Please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hi, this is Linda Valero at City of Anaheim. Appreciate this presentation. Just to ask two questions here. Where can we find the presentation, the beginning part, not the user guide? Have you guys posted that?
I'm going to talk about that in a moment as to where you can find it. So the presentation will be posted this afternoon, and I'll show you where that can be, where that will be located.
Sounds good. And then my second question is, I'm pretty sure you guys are on top of this, but I just wanted to just ask for my own sake. For your new SIBR upgrade, have you guys tested the system with the time change?
The time change? Is that, it cut out just a little bit. Did you say with the time change?
I still didn't understand the question.
So with the time changes, is this new capable of handling the time changes, like that happens twice a year?
For DSP? Yeah. We haven't done DSP testing with the Web SDK, so that's coming up. And then all of the time that's stored in the database is UCT time, so we don't expect any changes with the Web SDK. We do have other applications that are already using this framework, and there haven't been any conversion problems.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions.
And we do have another person waiting. Please go ahead. Your line is now open.
Hi, this is Ragawa from PG&E. I have one question. Can we copy forward the bids and schedules on daily basis? Like first time we create all these bids, and can we copy forward from the previous day to the next day before submitting?
Yes. So we are going to get to that, but there is a copy function, and there's also, if you had a portfolio, you could also submit and use the portfolio.
So when you say portfolio, you mean a bulk copy forward or individual copy forward? Meaning
the portfolio can do both.
Okay.
So if you're not familiar with the portfolio option, then that's also in the user guide. But if you were to create a portfolio, it could be a single bid or it could be a set of bids. And then you could either submit and use the portfolio or just one of the sheets within the portfolio, which gives you a little bit more detail. Now, from the bid summary, you can copy a bid or selected bids, and then it would submit to whatever date that you have selected.
So the copy itself will submit, or it allows me to copy first and then submit?
So I do believe, is that part of the...
No. Do you want me to go to portfolio section?
No.
Or copy?
The copying bids. Okay, so we're looking at the user guide now, and so if you copy an existing bid, you'd select the copy bid after you have it selected. And then you can either use the icon at the top, or you can use the right click menu option. And then once you've copied the bid, another menu will pop up, right? So there's two options. And if you're looking, so current sheet would allow you to edit the bid that you just copied for the current day. If you use the new sheet, then another menu will come up and it'll ask you what date. What date am I going to copy this bid to? And then you would click that and click OK. And then once you've selected the date, now you either have an option to copy, which would be in edit mode for the date that you just copied to, or you can copy and submit, which would allow, it would just basically copy and then also submit the one that you just copied. So
okay, perfect.
Similar to what we have today, where there's two icons. One is, where it has the arrow, and then there's one with an arrow and a star, I believe.
And we can also do this for, sorry to interrupt. We can also do this for the bulk, all the generators, right, at the same time? Instead of doing it one by one, can we just select a group or all generators and say copy forward?
Right now there's a limitation on the date range. So currently I know you can submit and copy forward, for 1 to 7 days or however many days the market's open, like say for day ahead. And then there's a bulk copy and submit that you can use for real time for a single resource or a set of resources into the next day. So yeah, you should be able to select the icon or select your resources and be able to hit copy, and it will copy into whatever date hour that you have selected.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And once again, if you'd like to ask a question, simply press #2 on your phone. And Heidi, at this time, we do not have any further questions.
Okay. So Wendell was able to just cover the copying bids, which is great. So again, you see that that's in this section here on the in the user's guide. So it'll take you through all those steps. That's starting on page 68, and we'll go through page 69. You can also find information on removing bids in here, viewing messages on bids. So all this information is located in there. I wanted to mention real quick that the idea of portfolios was brought up. And if you look in section 9 of the user's guide, you're going to be able to find all information about portfolios, creating portfolio displays, and all the different information. So a lot of the buttons are similar, but you can walk through those steps but again, if you see that on starting on page 1 and 2, section 9 of the user's guide, that's going to give you all that information about portfolios. So is there any other information that you think we should show them right now in the user's guide that we have not covered that would be beneficial?
No, I think a lot of the functions, whether it's for the bids, trades, convergence bids, and the energy forecasts, I mean, it's all, once you go to create one, it's going to pull up that menu. It's going to have you select, your resource, your product, whatever's available for trades, say. So trades, you have the ISPs, which can be physical trades. They can be the APN trades. And then in real time, you have the AS and the uplift. So those are all options. When you hit create trade, you're going to see that. And then those are also inline filter options that you'll see when you want to select and reduce what you're looking at via the inline filter on the summary pages or the detail pages. So all of that is pretty much driven by the inline filter and how you apply the inline filter, how you use your column select, depending on what you're looking at and what you want to focus on. And then the submits is right-click now instead of having to go back and forth between the details page and the summary page. You'll have it all right there. If it looks good, you right-click submit. And then you can just sit there and watch it, and it'll go through the different statuses, and then you'll see it pop up as, you know, a market accepted or not market accepted. So those changes are, I think, is primarily what you want to get comfortable with, familiar with. We do have some known issues that we're still tracking with the vendor on some of the display. There's some limitations, and I think we'll definitely post a known issues list as you have availability to this. And for example, like if the copy function isn't working the way you expected it, then go ahead, submit a city ticket, explain, you know, how you got to where you got, and then we can take a look at it. We also invite anyone who has suggestions as they're looking through the user interface on things that they would like to see based on what they're seeing. Because we're still at a stage right now where we can go to the vendor and have them make any changes that are, you know, fairly easy to make, you know, no redesign or anything like that. But, you know, as you're looking at this, we want you guys to also have the opportunity to have some input. And if we could track that through the city tickets, then that would be great. So other than that, we're excited for you guys to hit this a little bit and let us know what you think. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Like Wendell was saying, you know, please remember to refer to this user's guide for this detailed information. You'll find acronyms, definitions, FAQs. You find a lot of good information in there, and you saw just from that little brief walkthrough that we did that you've got a lot of steps in there that are detailed that are going to help walk you through it. And like Wendell said, just getting familiar with it and know that none of us like change or get comfortable with what we know, even if it's clunky. It's what we know, because I know, you know, our lives are busy, so change is kind of tough. But a lot of these enhancements will save time. So getting comfortable with it, playing with it during Market Sim, and just getting to know it is going to, you know, it's intended to be a lot more user-friendly and, you know, hopefully time-saving. So a little bit of work up front will end up saving you some time. So like Wendell said, log a city ticket with any suggestions, issues, or concerns. But also don't be afraid to let us know what's working, what you like. You know, what are the things that are enhanced in this that are helpful, because that will help with future. The more that we understand what the customers need, what you, the customers, need, the better we are going to be able to update this tool and other tools to better meet your needs. So this presentation, earlier the question was asked where the presentation is going to reside. So this afternoon, under the new releases section of our learning page, Learning Center, you're going to be able to find this presentation. This presentation has also been recorded, and we'll probably get that recording in the next couple of days, so we'll end up posting that as well, and we'll let you know when that is posted. So this is just kind of a side note. This is a great page to go. We're continuing to build and grow that. So new release trainings, those will fall under there for a time. You also have our training calendar if you want to sign up for any of our other training courses that we have. And you can find computer-based training, and that will continue to grow as we continue to develop more training. You can also stay informed. And there's a lot of great information on the daily briefing, so that's where you'll be able to see these kind of training events. It'll point you to our calendar, as well as a lot of other good information, all in one-stop shopping. So we're really trying to get you to there so that hopefully you have less, being bombarded less with less information and all in one place would be beneficial. So go ahead and sign up now on our webpage. And before we fully conclude, Mary Kate, if we can open it up for any last questions.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, to ask any last questions, simply press #2 on your telephone keypad. We have a few questions I've just queued up. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, this is Robert Acosta, City of Anaheim. I like the idea of the new views. What is it called? The new, I forgot at the beginning you were giving us a yellow star.
Oh, the favorites?
Favorites, yeah.
Favorites, right. Will that be about saving different types of views that I create so that I don't have to recreate the same view every day? Or could you tell us a little bit more about that feature itself?
It's similar to how the favorites are today. I don't think it's intended to save that. As you apply your filters, though, like your column select, those just stay with the session, but also with like your last login. So you can do that without the favorites, and then if you have an inline filter applied, it just stays. So next time you come back in, it'll apply to how you had that filter set.
Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for your question.
And moving to our next person in the queue, please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, this is Lori from Pacific Court. Could you tell me where to find the user's guide?
Yes, there's actually a link on the presentation, but you can also find it, and that's on the
release planning.
Release planning page.
Yeah, so the release planning page, and it's under the spring 2018, and then you'll find it under the SIBR user documentation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And our next question, please go ahead. Your line is open.
Yes, I had a question about implementation.
Okay, who is this?
This is WAPA SNR.
Okay, and go ahead.
What is the effective date of this? When will it be implemented in the operating system? And secondly, is this going to be phased in, or is it just a wholesale replacement of the old system?
This is John Williams. Our current plan is to deploy into production on May 1, 2018, and it is not a phased approach. It will be activated on that date.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mary Kate, do we have any more? Okay.
Yes. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
I have a technical question. Do we need any new, are there any going to be new browser requirements, or is this UI compatible with the Internet Explorer?
Yeah, so earlier it's compatible with IE 11, and you want to make sure that all your compatibility settings are off.
Compatibility.
Right, so that was.
Sorry, I missed that part.
Yes.
So
Okay.
Yeah, so it is in the user guide.
Yes.
And then, so when you have IE up and you go to compatibility, then you want to remove any sites that are on there and uncheck anything that's checked. Apply that before you go into the SIBR Web SDK.
Okay, thank you.
And like Wendell said, it's in the user's guide, and it's also, there's a slide on this in the presentation. So when you're looking at that later, then you can see that as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And once again, if you'd like to ask a question, simply press #2 on your telephone keypad. Heidi, at this time, there are no further questions.
Okay. Well, thank you again all for joining, and I want to thank our subject matter experts here in the room. Thank you, Wendell, especially for your information and for helping the end users. Again, we're very serious about making sure that we get your feedback on these changes, and we really encourage you're using this during MarketSim to get comfortable with this. Again, using that with the user's guide, that's going to be a great help. And if you have any questions, just you let us know. Wendell, did you want to add something?
Yeah, just when we post the known issues list, we'll work with the MarketSim team, because the MarketSim will have they have their weekly calls, and then they usually have the known issues list published, and so we'll work through them, through the MarketSim and get that list out there. We can expect. I don't know, it's not a quick turnaround time. Like if you find something, we're not going to have a patch for it the next day. So we will have probably a weekly type schedule. And then with MarketSim, we also have to coordinate, because typically with these type of patches, we will have to do some sort of security analysis before we can reopen an environment. So we'll try and balance that out. So we can get fixes in without, any downtime. So just to let you know that up front.
Perfect. Thank you. So like Wendell said, we've got the MarketSim calls. So if you're following this, you're going to be part of this. Please attend those MarketSim calls when they're scheduled. Our RUG meetings, the biweekly meetings for initiatives and updates. And again, this presentation will be posted on our Learning Center, and once the video the recording is available, we will post that under our Learning Center as well. So I want to thank you again all for your time, for your participation, for your.
I'm sorry,
oh yes.
You. We do have a question that just popped up.
Okay.
Please go ahead. It's open.
Hi, it's Lori Pacific again. Can you tell me how we get the invites to the MarketSim calls for this?
Should be on the calendar. Yes. On the calendar. They're on the calendar, but I don't think invites come out.
Need it. I think the information to log in is on the calendar, and you really don't need an invite. You can just log in.
Okay. Will there be notices, or do we need to look on the calendar to find the meeting dates?
Look on the calendar and find the meeting date. It's twice a week. And
usually Monday and Thursday.
Yeah, Monday and Thursdays, normally at either 1 or 2. So if you look at the information there, then you'll find how to get involved in that.
Okay, thank you.
And Lori, before I post this presentation, I'll follow up, get a little bit more information, and add a slide onto that, just about the MarketSim process. So I will add that to the presentation before I post it today. So thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Okay. Mary Kate, any other questions?
No, not at this time. Thanks, Heidi.
All right. Well, thank you all again. And again, look forward to using SIBR, the updates, and hopefully this will be a good experience for you, that it will be helpful with you in your daily jobs. So thank you again for your time, and have a great day.
Thank you so much for joining today's conference. The session has concluded, and you may now disconnect.